All right, so we're here this morning. I'm with Audra Adler, and I'm Zach. Audra's leading one of our college groups on Sunday mornings, and you've been around Webster for like a year now?
I think, yeah, like
Little
maybe
over?
like a year and a half.
Year and a half?
Yeah.
Gosh, time
So,
flies.
Yeah.
It's crazy. We're talking about worship this morning, and we're looking a little bit about this at this story, Paul and Silas. We were talking a little bit about it before they cast this demon out of this girl who can kind of predict the future a little bit and is also making money for some people.
Right.
And because they cast this demon out of this little slave girl, seems like a great thing to us,
Yeah.
they get thrown in jail.
Yeah.
Weird. So they get thrown in jail.
Mm-hmm.
They start singing and praising God while in jail.
Yeah.
The people around them, it says pretty clearly that those people are listening to them. An earthquake happens, opens up all the jail doors. Everything flies open. Jailer's about to kill himself because if people get out on his watch, yup,
He knows he's going to get killed anyway.
bingo.
Yeah.
But nobody left their jail cells.
Right.
They all just stayed in there.
Okay.
And so they say, Paul and Silas say, hey, don't kill yourself. We're all here. None of us left. And so we start looking at this and
Like
kind of
why they stayed.
Why they stayed. And so let's just start with Paul and Silas get thrown in jail for doing something that we would all kind of like, great.
Yeah.
Right. Why would they be singing and praising God even though something terrible happened?
Yeah, I guess I would have to go back and see what their faith was before that.
That's good.
And try and see how committed they were to God and where they came from.
Yeah.
Because I think that's really important to have that foundation. If you're going to keep in the faith, and I think when we go through hardships in our lives, if we don't have that strong foundation, we're not going to stick with it. We're not going to go back to God right away, at least, and just be like, oh, I'm in jail. Oh, well,
right.
I'll be good.
So what is it for you that as you think about that, because you're talking about that foundation, what are those kind of helpful things, those foundational things for you that as you're going through some of those challenging times that are kind of your help, or what would help you potentially still praise God even though crummy things are going on?
I think definitely community helps me a lot.
Yeah.
Prayer and time with God, and like I said, we with our family we'll do Bible stories sometimes, and that really helps me realize that I have this foundation or this family that we're all kind of super strong in God. So yeah, back to community, just kind of people around me and kind of keeping me in that faith.
This goes right where we're going. And by the way, I'll also talk a little bit too sometimes. I just try and, not talk too much sometimes. When, why does it help that your family is doing this with you? That as you see them enjoy God and commit this kind of stuff to God, why is that something that helps you out? Do you know?
I think it's because just, I care so much about my family and I love my family and they're so close to me. So if something is important to them and, they're really passionate about it, it's going to make me want to be passionate about it just because, I know that they're right in, most things that they do. And, they care so much about other people and they care about me. And, I think they just influence me a lot because they care about what they think or, and I care about, that's the community side of it, but obviously I want my own connection with God.
Right.
And that's where it comes from, prayer.
Right.
And making that time for God. I, like I said, I'm in kind of past weeks, whenever I'm not praying, whenever I'm not having that devotion time, I can sense that my connection is a little bit, not lost, but just kind of not as strong.
Right.
And then when I'm praying a whole lot, I feel super, super strong.
Right.
It makes me really excited to go to church and, stay in that faith. So definitely God time, by myself, but then community, other people around you motivating you, and people make me happy. I don't know, just I love being around people. So
we've been talking about this a lot, and especially in the first couple of weeks as we were talking about this, because when we were talking about small groups and we started saying, hey, this friendship angle is really important.
Yeah.
Right. This spot of being friends and having actually meaningful relationships and not just getting around and only reading the Bible.
Yeah.
But was really important because God creates us in his image, right? Which is that Trinity, right? I mean, his very nature is like Father, Son, and Spirit, right? And he creates us to need community, to be a part of community. Even when he looks at Adam, he's like, ugh, not good enough. Yeah. You know, it's like good, but there's something better, and that's when I create Eve, and you have this community, right?
And that's why I really love the small groups, because especially when it gets a little bit, not like too big, but bigger, so you have like all these different ideas and just things you wouldn't have thought about before. Like I remember someone in our small group this week just like completely brought up something that I was not even like thinking about. I was like, that was awesome. You know, I was like, my mind wasn't even going there. So
what does that do for your faith and like your confidence that God is real? When you see that these other people in your small group are willing to give up time, or that they're willing to, or they're showing you that they've thought about this thing, that they've invested time and effort in their relationship with God. Yeah. What does that do for your relationship with God?
It definitely motivates me to keep, work on these stories more, really understand them more, go deeper into meaning with them, and try to understand them so that I can, if people come to me, then I can share it with them. Yeah. Or not even people from my small group, people that aren't Christian, people that have kind of maybe lost their faith, you know, people that I want to reach out to. Right. This can really help me to kind of grow my faith so that I can help other people grow their faith. So.
You're going to Merrimack right now and living at home still, right? Which good call. Money is nice.
Yeah, it's hard,
we don't love it, but you know, I went to Concordia, Chicago. Great. I mean, good school, good people. Mm-hmm. But when it's good. When I'm there, I don't see a ton of Christians. I didn't see a ton of Christians who were. I saw a lot of them.
I was like, what?
Who were what I would kind of consider like following God and really striving to follow God. Now they were there. Maybe it was the people who I wasn't hanging out with. Yeah. But for me, there were times where it was like the people who I see, you know, even in high school. I went to a Lutheran high school too. But it was really difficult for me when I saw a lot, maybe what I would consider most, even if that wasn't true, of Christians not honoring God.
Oh, yeah.
It was really hard for me to honor God and to live for God.
Makes sense. Because then I feel like you just kind of get up in this cycle of like, oh, yeah, we go to church, we do this, but we're not really committed. I went to a school or a place like that. I'm not going to say.
Yeah,
like I've been in that situation before.
Yeah,
where,
absolutely.
People have just really not been committed, or people don't care. People have it as their insurance, as they would say, which is so bad. Right. Remember actually when I was around them, I wasn't motivated to go to church. I wasn't motivated to learn. Right. It wasn't a big part of my life. I didn't have, you know, a whole bunch of Devo time, prayer time. Right. You know, and you know, it just, I think the people around you really do influence you and motivate you.
Hugely. Right. So and I think sometimes we discredit that. We were actually talking a little bit about that maybe this last week, right? Yeah. And it was like
there's a balance.
Right, there's a balance, because I'm going to rely on God, but God has also blessed me with people to help me grow and enjoy him. Yeah. So I'm looking back at this story, Paul and Silas sitting in this cell, right, singing praises. People around them like, you're in jail. Yeah. Why are you singing praises? So they're listening. They're like, there's something unique that's going on here. Something special that's going on here. Earthquake happens. All the doors fly open. No one leaves.
Yeah.
It's insane to me, right? Mm-hmm. If I'm in jail, hopefully that doesn't happen. But if I'm sitting there and the doors just open and I can just leave, slim chance I'm staying.
Or you can like leave and be like, okay, I'm gonna be good now.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna be a good person. I've learned my lesson. I'm gonna leave. Yeah. Now, they choose to stay.
Yeah.
And clearly, I think a little bit God is working through Paul and Silas. But these people were influenced by the fact that Paul and Silas are enjoying and loving God and life, even though they've just been wrongly accused, beaten, and thrown in jail. Mm-hmm. And I think you look at that a little bit in terms of how people influence us, and just a little bit too. When we're expressing our joy for God, people are affected by that.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, when I was just sharing, we were just talking to Holly a little bit before we came in here, right?
Yeah.
And Holly's a secretary. She's
so
awesome.
sweet.
She's
Oh my
phenomenal.
gosh.
Yeah. And I even talk about high school students sometimes, because I did high school ministry for a while, and I would go on these retreats or events or something like that, and I'd see these high school students at times just like enjoy God, and that affects me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm the teacher, I'm the leader, but when they enjoy God, and it shows me and it reminds me that God is something powerful and good, and that I'm not alone in following Him, right? And so I feel invigorated. I feel excited, right? Because a 16-year-old is praising God and experiencing God, or when I'm sitting, we talked about that in church a little bit, and people are just praising, right? And I can see or hear them express their joy, and so that's something that we want to see happen in these small groups a little bit, is to see that people are just kind of influencing each other and sharing that kind of joy, not just obligation, but that joy for God sometimes too. Have you ever had somebody, you're talking a little bit about your parents, but those people who really just kind of enjoyed God?
Oh yeah.
Have you had,
definitely like in high school. I remember Peyton Anderson was just always someone that, like she was just always so like happy and excited to learn about God, or just like even when someone was like maybe like, upset about something small, like a test or something. It's like, she would like remind them of God like every time. Or just, she was just always like this like ray of sunshine. I was like, oh my gosh, she's the best. And so I would just like want to be around her and
exactly.
Kind of like be like that. I was like, that's awesome.
Right.
I was in a group that did not do that at all. Yeah. They would not talk about God. They didn't do that kind of stuff. And because we used to be like really close, and we kind of split off to different groups when we got to high school, which is normal.
Right.
But I just always admired that about her, and
I love that you said too, you wanted to be around her.
Yeah.
There's I think this like Chris Clausen. Our staff is all phenomenal. Chris Clausen is one of those guys who I just love, right? And I enjoy to be around that guy. Yeah. I love the whole staff, okay? But Chris, I'll go in and that guy enjoys God. Yeah. Right? I mean, not going through it. Everybody does. But I really enjoy being around him and seeing his joy for God and seeing how much he values that prayer time. And it influences me. Yeah. And if we can do that in our small groups, those kind of times where we're
I could see that she had a really strong faith, and that like made me kind of like trust her more.
Right.
Anything. Like, I knew that like, because we were super close in middle school, and even though we weren't as close in high school, I just kind of felt like I could talk to her whenever I wanted about anything.
Right.
And she would always, be there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I think there's an avenue of that. So these guys are in jail and they see Paul and Silas, and there's this joy that's unusual. Mm-hmm. There's this hope or whatever that's unusual, to the point that when the doors fling open, they're kind of like, I still want to understand this joy that Paul and Silas have. Right, and this is maybe a little leap. The Bible doesn't necessarily say this, but for some reason they stayed. And it could be that Paul and Silas asked them to stay, and that's not written in there. It could be that the Spirit, forced them to stay, but for some reason they stayed. So they respected, what was going on enough. And so you're hearing Paul and Silas singing. The earthquake happens, they stay. And I imagine it's something like, we want to know more about this, or at least we respect you guys enough because you were worshiping while sitting in here, and that's so unusual. That's so special. We respect it or want to know more about it, right? Man, let me ask you this: can you think of how your faith has helped you kind of enjoy, not even just tolerate, but maybe even enjoy life when it was like a suffering time or a challenging time, where you're like, I kind of still enjoy God and enjoy life, even though this stinks?
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I mean,
I know I'm putting you on the spot with this question.
You're good. Yeah, I've definitely gone through like tough times, and things aren't going my way, or friendships aren't what I want them to be, or that kind of thing. And I think whenever I don't have God, that's a huge difference. Then so
what's the difference between those two?
I kind of sink in a wallow and I'm like, oh, like this is terrible. My life is not going where I want it to go. But when I'm praying and when I have, you know, that connection with God, I'm like, you know, I'm gonna be okay. Like I just kind of have that feeling, like I'm okay. I'm gonna go hang out with these people, whatever. Like I'm gonna do something else, like be thankful for something else. Focus on this, you know. I'm grateful for this. You know, if there's a certain hardship, or you know, I'm gonna work at it. I'm not gonna give up. I'm not gonna shy away from this problem. I'm gonna face it head on, because I know that I have God on my side. I know that I have my family. I have my friends. I have everyone, you know, with me to help me, and you know.
And so right now, and we'll kind of wrap up here a little bit. You know, we respect your time. We like you guys. I've got a buddy who's going through some stuff right now, and it's just fascinating to me, because he hasn't always been, generally in our relationship, I've been the you know, kind of follower of Christ in a stronger way, and the one who kind of supports, and that's a little bit still, I mean, that's obviously a little bit still now, but I'm looking, and this guy is just going through some stuff that's challenging, and he is just being incredibly loving, and I mean, I'm in awe of him a little bit right now, and as I see him, it's like, man, I want to be like that.
Yeah.
You know, and just the way that we influence each other when we enjoy who God is, and we enjoy this life, especially when things are challenging, because it shows how great God is.
Yeah.
And I can learn that from you, and you can learn that from me, and sometimes that just changes, right? Small leaders and just groups, this is one of the things that we want you guys to be thinking about, is how do you kind of create those spaces where you express your joy for God in front of each other, and this worship can kind of look like a couple different things. We'd love to see small groups. You said you guys did this Sunday. We'd love to see small groups sitting together in worship, and just enjoying each other there.
Yeah, someone actually got like a picture of us.
I know, I saw
together
that.
And put it on Facebook. I was like, oh my god.
And they were encouraged by it.
Yeah, I know.
That's so cool.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
It's so neat.
I didn't even think about it like
right.
that.
Right.
I was like, oh yeah, I'll sit with you guys. It's cool, you know.
Yeah.
Because
it's
I didn't see that would like matter to anybody to take a picture of it. But that's awesome.
But it did.
Yeah.
And you don't always realize that. And so maybe that joy, maybe expressing that joy looks like going to worship together. Maybe expressing that joy talks about, you know, sharing that how God has worked and is working in your small group, or in the lives of the people in your small group for the first 5 to 10 minutes while you're meeting. Maybe it looks like, you know, something else. But how can you create those spaces in your small group to let people express their joy for God to each other? So we just want you guys thinking a little bit about that as you guys have this conversation. Just reflect on how seeing God work in other people's lives and seeing their joy from just kind of influences you, and then potentially how you can do that for other people. So thanks for joining us, Audra. Always good to have you here. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.